The space outpost Helion 9 floated silently above Earth's blue curve, its metal wings glimmering in the light of dawn. Among the crew of humans and alien observers, there was one who stood apart. Lyra of Arendor, a scientist sent to study humanity. Her skin shimmered faintly, like liquid glass touched by moonlight. Her eyes carried galaxies in them, but her face always remained calm, cold, unreadable. Humans fascinated her. They were loud, emotional, unpredictable, yet somehow alive in ways her kind had forgotten. She recorded their laughter, their arguments, their small kindnesses. To her, they were subjects, nothing more, until she met Eli Rowan. He was the outpost's chief engineer, a man with messy hair, oil-stained hands, and a constant half-smile that looked both tired and kind. He often worked alone, fixing systems no one else dared touch. One day, Lyra stood behind the glass observation window, watching him repair the central communication array. Sparks flashed, wires hissed, and Eli hummed an old Earth song. He noticed her reflection on the glass and waved. "You can come in, you know," he said with an easy grin. Lyra hesitated. "Observation protocol forbids interaction without purpose," she replied, her voice calm and musical. Eli laughed. "Then make the purpose curiosity." She blinked, surprised. No one had ever spoken to her like that, without fear or reverence. Slowly she stepped inside the chamber. "What are you repairing?" she asked. "Broken transmitter," he said, not looking up. "Keeps cutting out every few hours. Like my ex-girlfriend, by always leaving me mid-sentence." Lyra frowned slightly. "Your partner was a communication device?" Eli burst into laughter, the sound echoing off the steel walls. "No, just a human thing. You'll get it eventually." For some reason, Lyra didn't walk away. She stood there watching the way he worked, precise but gentle, like he respected the machine. When he finished, he handed her a small piece of wire. "Souvenir," he said. "The first thing you've ever seen me fix." She stared at it. "Why?" "Because sometimes it's nice to have something to remember a moment by." That night, Lyra replayed the moment in her mind more than once. She held the small wire between her fingers, feeling an odd warmth in her chest. It wasn't physical. It was something deeper. Something she didn't have a name for. Days passed. Lyra kept finding herself near the engineering deck, coincidentally observing Eli's work. He told her about Earth, rain, coffee, cities that never slept. He even played her an old song from a tiny device. "It's called a music player," he said, placing an earbud in her ear. "Humans use it to feel things we can't describe." She listened. Soft notes filled her mind, something tender and sad, yet beautiful. "This sound, it moves," she whispered. "That's emotion," Eli said. "You don't think your people feel it?" She shook her head slowly. "We removed emotion centuries ago. They caused war, division. And peace cost you your heart," he said quietly. The words lingered. Lyra had no response. That evening, alarms blared through the outpost. Reactor instability detected. Engineers ran across corridors, shouting into comms. Lyra moved to her console, analyzing the readings. The reactor core's cooling unit was failing. Critical overload in 5 minutes. Eli was already inside the reactor bay, trying to override the system manually. "Eli," Lyra called through the intercom. "Get out!" "The temperature is unstable." "No time," he shouted back. "If I don't stabilize it, the whole outpost blows." Her hands trembled, an unfamiliar reaction. She tried rerouting power from the control room, but the system locked. The temperature climbed. Her mind screamed logical instructions: evacuate, preserve the mission, but her heart, new and fragile, whispered something else: save him. Without thinking, she ran toward the reactor chamber. The heat slammed into her, the alarms deafening. Eli turned, shocked. "Lyra? What the hell are you doing?" She raised her hand and a surge of pale blue energy formed around the console. Her alien energy systems, strictly forbidden in human zones, merged with the failing reactor core. The overload stopped instantly. The lights dimmed. The hum softened. Then Lyra collapsed to her knees, trembling. Eli rushed to her side. You just absorbed the entire discharge. Are you crazy? That could have killed you." Her voice was weak but calm. "I calculated the risk." He helped her stand, gripping her arm gently. "You could have let me die." "I couldn't," she whispered. "I don't know why." For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the reactor faded, leaving only the quiet rhythm of their breathing. Eli looked at her, really looked at her. "You're not supposed to care, are you?" Lyra met his gaze. "No," she said softly. "And yet, I do." The next morning, she was summoned by her superiors on the communication link. The hologram of the Arendor overseer flickered before her. "Agent Lyra," it said coldly. "We have detected unauthorized energy usage. Explain." Lyra's expression remained calm, but inside her chest, something fluttered, a fear she couldn't name. "I acted to protect human life," she replied. "Emotional interference is forbidden. You will report for evaluation." As the hologram vanished, Lyra's reflection appeared on the dark screen, her eyes glowing faintly, her pulse irregular. She touched her chest again. For the first time in her existence, her heart was racing. The next morning on Helion 9, the artificial dawn lights painted the corridors in soft gold. Lyra walked slowly through the engineering deck, still feeling the faint echo of warmth where Eli had held her hand the night before. Her mind told her to stay away, to obey the council, yet her steps always led her back to him. Eli was sitting cross-legged near the main power hub, his music player in hand. When he saw her, his face broke into that easy human smile again. "Morning, Dr. Lightshow." Lyra frowned slightly. "Dr. Lightshow?" He chuckled. "You glowed blue yesterday. Thought it fits." Her lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but something close. "You humans assign strange names." "Only to people we like," he said. The words made something flutter in her chest again. She tried to suppress it, but the feeling lingered, warm and alive. Eli patted the floor beside him. "Sit down. I've got something for you." She hesitated but obeyed. He handed her the small music player, a silver scratched thing with tiny buttons. "It's old tech," he said, "but it still plays real sound, not holosynths. Here." He pressed play. Soft piano notes drifted through the air, gentle, human, full of emotion. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the vibrations travel through her. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "That's Chopin, a human composer. Lived long before either of us were born," Eli said quietly. "He wrote this when he was in love." She opened her eyes. "And love is?" He smiled faintly. "It's the best and worst thing we ever invented. It makes us brave, stupid, alive." Lyra stared at the small device in her hands. "We removed such chaos from our minds centuries ago." Eli leaned closer. "Then maybe your people removed what made you truly alive." For a long moment, they just sat there listening to the music. The hum of the station, the soft light, and the fading notes all blended into one heartbeat. Over the next few weeks, their friendship became a quiet routine. Lyra joined Eli in the workshops, under the excuse of human behavioral study. They drank instant coffee together. She hated the taste, but loved his laughter when she made a face. He showed her how to draw stars by hand on paper. She showed him how to manipulate gravity fields using thought pulses. Somewhere between the shared jokes and experiments, something delicate began to form. Not scientific curiosity, not command or duty, something tender. Lyra started keeping a secret log she titled Project Heart. Each entry described the new sensations she felt: joy, confusion, longing. Her first line read, "When he smiles, my chest feels lighter than zero gravity." She didn't know what that meant, only that it felt right. One night, Eli found her sitting by the observation window staring at Earth below. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "I do not require sleep," she replied softly. "But I am thinking." "About what?" "Your planet. It's noisy, beautiful, full of contradictions. It bleeds and grows at the same time." "That's humanity," Eli said, sitting beside her. "We're a mess, but we try." Lyra turned her gaze to him. "You risked your life for me yesterday," she said. "Why?" Eli shrugged. "You'd have done the same, but I'm not human," he smiled. "Doesn't matter. You feel human to me." Her chest tightened. "If my people knew I stayed here, that I speak with you like this, they would call me defective. Then maybe being defective is the only way to be real," Eli said gently. Days later, Lyra's neural scanner started to pick up strange readings. Her emotional centers were active, her energy signature unstable. She knew Arendor would detect it soon. She should have been afraid. Instead, she felt something else: defiance. When she returned to the lab that evening, she found Eli asleep on the workbench, a half-fixed tool clutched in his hand. The music player still played softly beside him, looping the same song. Lyra touched his hand carefully, studying the human veins, the small imperfections of his skin. Her people were perfect and smooth, flawless, lifeless, but he was imperfect and alive. She whispered, "Why does your kind make me forget who I am?" Eli stirred awake, blinking. "What time is it?" "Past your rest cycle," she said quietly. "You should sleep properly," he smiled sleepily. "You sound like you care." She froze. "Perhaps I do." For a second, silence filled the room. Then Eli reached out and placed the music player in her palm again. "Keep it. So when I'm not around, you'll still hear me." Lyra's voice faltered. "But this belongs to you." "It does," he said softly. "And now it belongs to you too." The gesture was small, but to Lyra it felt like a universe shifting. Later that night, she stood by the viewport, the little device glowing faintly in her hands. She recorded her next diary entry in Project Heart. "He gave me sound. Humans give away pieces of themselves, not for logic, but for meaning. I don't understand it. Yet I crave it." She pressed play, letting the song fill the empty air. The melody felt like sunlight on her cold skin, like warmth she was never meant to feel. As the stars drifted slowly outside, Lyra whispered to the void, "If this is weakness, let me never be strong again." Far away, deep in the silence of space, a distant signal pulsed from Arendor's council network, a message sent toward Helion 9. Observation subject Lyra showing emotional contamination. Prepare recall procedure. And as the soft piano notes faded, Lyra looked down at Earth's glowing curve, unaware that her heart's awakening had already sealed both their fates. The message from the Arendor Council pulsed red across Lyra's console all night, cold and sharp like a blade pressed against her thoughts. Emotional contamination confirmed. Prepare for recall and memory cleansing. She stared at the words, her fingers trembling. Memory cleansing. That meant everything, and every moment, every sound, every feeling would be erased. Her mind would be pure again, empty. But what they called impurity, Lyra had begun to call life. She turned off the screen, her reflection flickering in the darkness. For the first time in her existence, she felt afraid. Not of death, but of forgetting him. The next morning, Eli noticed the quiet change in her. "You didn't sleep again, did you?" he asked, walking beside her along the narrow observation corridor. "I do not require sleep," she said softly. He frowned. "You're shaking." Lyra hesitated, her voice barely a whisper. "Eli, my people know." He stopped walking. "Know what?" "That I feel." Her eyes shimmered faintly like starlight trapped in glass. "They will come for me. They will erase everything I have learned here." "Everything?" "Including you." Eli's jaw tightened. "They can't just— You're not property, Lyra." "To them I am data," she said bitterly. "Emotion is seen as a virus that corrupts logic. They will not let me keep it." He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "If they trace your interference, you will be punished as well." Eli's voice dropped low. "Then let them." Eli, "No, listen." He took a deep breath, his eyes fierce. "I don't care about their rules. I've watched you change, Lyra, you're feeling. You're becoming more human than half the crew on this station." Lyra shook her head. "You do not understand. They will not just take me away. They will unmake me." Eli's expression hardened. "Then we'll run." "Run?" she repeated, confused. "There's a neutral moon base 2 jumps from here. It's independent. No Arendor jurisdiction. We could go there. You'd be safe." Lyra's lips parted. "You would abandon your planet." "For me?" He smiled faintly. "You're worth more than a planet." For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the station filled the silence, soft and heavy. Lyra finally whispered, "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because they make me feel something I cannot control." "Maybe you don't need to control it," he said. She turned to him, and for the first time her expression broke. The calm mask of an alien scientist shattered by emotion. "Eli, you don't understand what love means for my kind. It's forbidden because it changes us." He stepped closer, his hand brushing against her cheek. "Then let it change you." Lyra trembled. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting him like stars in water. "What if it destroys me?" Eli smiled sadly. "Then we'll burn together." And in that fragile moment between logic and madness, she kissed him. The universe outside the viewport seemed to stop. Her skin shimmered with silver light as she felt something she'd never known. Warmth that wasn't heat. Connection that wasn't data. Every sense came alive. The rhythm of his heartbeat. The roughness of his hand. The way his breath shook when he whispered her name. For the first time, Lyra understood why humans risked everything for love. When they pulled apart, she looked dazed, her voice trembling. "This is overwhelming." He smiled softly. "Yeah, that's how you know it's real." She laughed quietly, the first true laugh of her life, but their small universe was already collapsing. Hours later, the station's proximity alarms blared. Incoming Arendor vessel detected. The air grew heavy with panic. Crew members rushed to their stations. Eli's communicator buzzed. "Engineering report," someone shouted. He turned to Lyra, urgency in his eyes. "They're here for you, aren't they?" She nodded slowly. "Their signal frequency matches my recall code." Eli clenched his fists. "We need to move, and now." He grabbed her hand and pulled her down the maintenance corridor. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. The sound of engines vibrated through the floor. Lyra's pulse quickened. She knew running was useless. Arendor ships could track her energy signature anywhere. But she followed him anyway, because staying meant losing him forever. They reached the lower docking bay. Eli began programming an escape shuttle, his fingers flying across the console. "It's old, but it'll fly. Once we're out of their radar, we can—" A booming voice cut through the intercom. "Arendor Agent Lyra, you are in violation of interstellar protocol. Cease all movement. You are ordered to surrender immediately." Lyra froze. The sound of her name in their tongue sent chills down her spine. "They found me," she whispered. Eli turned to her. "Ignore them. Get in the shuttle." "No," she said, her voice trembling. "If they see you helping me, they'll execute you." He stepped closer, eyes burning. "Then at least I'll die for something that matters." Lyra looked at him. Really looked. A fragile human, trembling, defying a civilization that could crush him with a thought. And yet he stood unbroken. Her heart broke in silence. "Eli," she reached up, touching his face with both hands. "If I am erased, promise me one thing, do not forget me." He caught her wrists gently, shaking his head. "I couldn't forget you if I tried." The doors behind them burst open. Blue light flooded the bay. Arendor soldiers, their armor gleaming like mirrors. Lyra turned toward them, her eyes glowing fiercely. "Stay behind me." She raised her hands, releasing a pulse of radiant energy that threw the soldiers back. The shuttle's alarms screamed as systems overloaded. Eli grabbed her shoulder. "Lyra, stop. You'll drain yourself." She looked at him, tears glimmering on her cheeks like falling stars. "Then let me burn bright once." The energy crackled around her, silver and blue, beautiful and terrible. The blast disabled the soldiers' weapons, but it also triggered the station's lockdown. They were trapped. Lyra fell to her knees, exhausted. Eli caught her before she hit the ground. Her breathing was shallow, her glow dimming. "They'll send more," he said quietly. "I know," she whispered, "but I will not go with them." He pulled her close, his voice breaking. "Then I'll stay." She looked up at him weakly, a faint smile crossing her lips. "You are foolish." "Yeah," he said, his eyes glistening. "Humans usually are." Outside, the Arendor ship began charging its main cannon. Inside the docking bay, two figures held each other as the world around them burned with light. And for one brief heartbeat in the endless silence of space, love defied a civilization. The docking bay shook as the Arendor ship's energy cannon charged outside. The air vibrated with low thunder, red warning lights flashing in rhythmic pulses. Smoke filled the air from damaged consoles. The metallic scent of ozone stung their lungs. Eli tightened his grip on Lyra, pulling her behind a collapsed bulkhead. "We can't stay here," he shouted over the alarms. Lyra's breathing was uneven. Her glow flickered like a dying star. "Their main weapon is locked on this deck," she said faintly. "Once it fires, Hellion 9 will break apart. Then we shut it down." Eli snapped, already sprinting toward the control terminal. Lyra tried to stand but stumbled. "Eli, stop." "You can't." "I have to," he said, fingers flying over the keys. Sparks burst from the console as he tried to override the targeting system. Come on. Outside the viewport, the Arendor dreadnought loomed, a dark, elegant monster against the stars. Its engines glowed like twin suns, and along its hull, Lines of blue light gathered into one enormous cannon aimed directly at them. Lyra felt panic rise, not for herself, but for him. "Eli!" she cried. "They will destroy you for this." He didn't stop typing. "Let them try." The screen flashed red. "Access denied." A voice echoed through the intercom, cold and sharp. "Agent Lyra of Arendor, your defiance has been recorded. You have broken protocol and bonded with a human. Surrender now and we may preserve fragments of your mind." Lyra's voice trembled, but her eyes blazed. "You will not touch him." "The human is irrelevant," the voice continued. "He will be erased with the station." Something inside Lyra broke. Her fear turned into fire. "Then you will learn what emotion truly is." She raised her hands. Silver energy swirled around her arms, brighter than before, raw and unstable. Eli turned in shock. "Lyra, don't! Your body can't handle another surge!" Her eyes shimmered with tears. "I would rather die myself than let them take you." The floor trembled as she unleashed the energy. Bolts of light exploded outward, colliding with the Arendor cannon's beam as it fired. The impact created a storm of light that blinded every screen. The space outside filled with burning color, blue, white, and gold, like stars screaming in silence. The force knocked Eli backward. He hit the floor, gasping as Lyra hovered above the ground, her glow expanding until her entire form seemed to dissolve into light. "Lyra," he shouted. "Stop, you're killing yourself." Her voice came faintly like a whisper through the storm. "Eli, run." "I'm not leaving you." She turned her head toward him, her face barely visible through the glow. "Please," she said softly, "don't make this harder." Then, with one last burst of power, Lyra's energy wave struck the Arendor vessel head-on. The cannon shattered, the dreadnought spun out of control, and the transmission line to Helion 9 went silent. But the explosion had drained her completely. When the light faded, Lyra collapsed. Her glow dimmed until her skin looked pale, translucent. She fell into Eli's arms. He held her tightly, trembling. She tried to speak, but her voice was a whisper. "Is it over?" He nodded shakily. "Yeah, you did it. You stopped them." She smiled faintly. "Then I have. One last victory." Eli's heart pounded. No, you're going to be fine. We'll get you to medical, I'll fix this." She shook her head weakly. "You can't fix what isn't broken. I was not made for love. But you taught me how. Don't talk like that." His voice cracked. "You said you'd never leave." She looked up at him, her eyes fading like the last light of a sunset. "I didn't mean to love you this much." Tears streamed down Eli's face. "Then stay, please, for both of us." Lyra touched his cheek with a trembling hand. "Eli, your kind sees beauty in death. Because it proves you lived. Let me live once, even if it ends here." He grabbed her hand and pressed it against his heart. "Then feel this. That's what you gave me. That's what you'll take with you." Her fingers tightened slightly, the smallest, softest motion. Then she whispered, "You made the universe feel small and warm." Her body flickered with one last pulse of light, then went still. Eli froze. The alarms continued to blare around him, the metal walls groaning, but all he could hear was silence. He pressed her close, rocking back and forth. No, please." Her head rested against his shoulder, the faint shimmer of her glow still painting his hands in blue. Light. He stayed like that for minutes, maybe hours, until the emergency lights dimmed and the outpost drifted quietly through orbit. When rescue crews arrived days later, they found the human engineer sitting in the shattered docking bay, holding a shape of light that no longer lived. They said he buried her in space, not on Earth, not on any planet, but in the emptiness between stars where her kind had been born. And there, in the silent dark, a strange phenomenon occurred. The spot where she vanished glowed faintly for days, a small heart-shaped nebula, pulsing like a heartbeat. Eli never returned to Earth. He built a small shuttle from the remains of Helion 9, and each night he drifted through the same stars they once watched together. He carried one thing, her music player, still working, still looping the same song. When he finally closed his eyes one last time, years later, the shuttle lights went out quietly, and another tiny blue light appeared beside the nebula, glowing beside hers. Back on Arendor, the council declared Lyra a traitor, but in secret, whispers spread among the younger scientists. They spoke of the alien who loved a human, who chose feeling over obedience, and they gave her story a name. The one who defied the void. The ocean whispered against the quiet shore, the waves soft and endless beneath the orange glow of Earth's sunrise. Seagulls drifted lazily above, their cries faint against the wind. Far beyond the horizon, broken pieces of the old space station Helion 9 had fallen to the sea. Silent reminders of what once was. A small shuttle rested near a cliff. Its engines were cold now, its panels scarred and cracked. Inside, a man stood alone, older, quieter, his once steady hands trembling slightly. Eli Rowan had come home. In his hands was a small, transparent capsule. Inside it shimmered a faint glowing dust, silver and blue, like liquid starlight. Lyra. He had carried her essence across the void, through years in silence, back to the planet she had once watched from afar. Now at last she would rest where she had always longed to feel, among the colors, the wind, and the sound of life. He walked to the edge of the cliff where the grass met the sea. The horizon stretched endlessly before him. For a long moment, Eli just stood there listening to the rhythm of the waves. The same rhythm he once swore matched her heartbeat. He set the capsule gently on the ground. "You remember this place?" he said softly, his voice trembling. "You used to tell me Earth looked beautiful but too loud. You'd hate this wind," he smiled weakly. "But you'd love the light." He opened the capsule. The starlight inside rose like mist, catching the wind, scattering in thousands of glowing particles. They drifted into the sky, over the sea, shining faintly like silver snow. And for a heartbeat, the entire sky glowed, as if the stars themselves paused to welcome her home. Eli sank to his knees. The weight of years pressed down on him. The silence, the memories, the guilt. "I couldn't save you," he whispered. "I tried. God, I tried." The wind carried his words away, but the light around him pulsed once gently, as if answering. He pulled the old music player from his pocket, the same one she had held all those years ago. The screen was cracked, its edges burned, but it still worked. He pressed play, soft piano filled the air, her song, the same melody that had first made her smile. Eli closed his eyes. "You said love was forbidden," he murmured, "but you made it holy." He sat there for hours, the waves crashing softly below, the music repeating again and again until the battery began to fade. When the song finally stopped, the world was silent, except for the sea and the wind. Years passed. People in the nearby town began to speak of strange lights over the ocean, a blue shimmer that appeared some nights, glowing above the water like a heartbeat. They called it the Weeping Star. Some said it was a meteor that never fell. Others said it was an echo from a dead satellite. But old sailors whispered another story, of a man who buried a goddess of light and never left her side. No one knew Eli still lived in the small cabin by the cliff. He grew weaker each year, his hair turning silver, his eyes always on the stars. Every night he would walk outside, sit by the edge, and talk softly to the sky. One night, as the tide rose higher than usual, he sat there again, the music player in his hand, its screen dark now. "I think it's time," he whispered to the horizon. "You waited long enough." He smiled faintly, closing his eyes. The wind grew warm, carrying the faintest shimmer of silver light across the grass. His body relaxed, his breathing slowed, and somewhere deep in the sky above, a streak of blue light crossed the heavens, bright and slow, like a shooting star that refused to fade. Two lights now glowed side by side, one faint, one strong, orbiting each other in perfect silence. The people of Earth called them the lovers of Helion. Centuries later, long after both were gone, explorers from distant worlds visited Earth again. They studied the strange nebula above the ocean, wondering why it pulsed in pairs, two heartbeats in the dark. Among them was an alien historian who read the old transmissions from Arendor. There, hidden in forbidden archives, he found Lyra's final message before her death. "You called love a disease. I call it the reason I lived." He looked up at the twin stars and smiled. "So this is where the first defiance began," he said softly, "and where the heart of two worlds still beats, and far beyond human eyes in the endless quiet of space. Two lights danced together through eternity, a faint blue and a gentle white, not as human and alien. Not as scientist and soldier, but as two souls who dared to love across the stars. Final line. And when the stars wept for them, the universe finally understood what love truly meant. End of story. When the stars wept for him.